My boyfriend thought I was cheating, so I finally told him the truth about my secret job, my fake family stories, and my hidden past, but instead of understanding, he gave me an ultimatum to change everything about my life, so I had to make the hardest decision of my relationship on Maya, 26F, and my boyfriend Derek, 32M, thinks I'm cheating on him. We've been together for 14 months now. He hasn't accused me directly, but I can see it in his eyes when he looks at my phone screen or when I get quiet during certain conversations. The thing is, I'm not cheating. I've never even thought about it. But I am hiding things from him. Big things. Things that make me wake up some mornings and wonder if our entire relationship is built on lies. Let me start from the beginning. Derek and I met through mutual friends at a house party. He was visiting from another city for work and we hit it off immediately. We talked until 3 a.m. about everything and nothing. He made me laugh in ways I hadn't in years. When he had to leave the next day, we exchanged numbers and started talking every single day. After 3 months of long-distance texting and video calls, he got a job transfer to my city. He said he wanted to see where things could go with us. That should have been the moment I told him everything. But I didn't. Derek comes from what seems like a perfect family. His parents have been married for 35 years. His dad still brings his mom coffee in bed every morning. His sister calls him every Sunday just to catch up. They have family dinners where everyone actually wants to be there. When he talks about his childhood, it's full of camping trips and birthday parties and parents who showed up to every school event. My family situation is different. Very different. I haven't spoken to my parents in 4 years. My mom remarried when I was 12 to a man who made my life hell for 6 years. He never touched me inappropriately, but he made sure I knew I wasn't wanted. He would eat my food, throw away my homework, and tell my mom I was lying when I complained. My mom chose him over me every single time. When I turned 18, I moved out and never looked back. My older brother Jake was the only family member who mattered to me. He was 8 years older and had moved out before mom remarried. Jake was the one who helped me with college applications, co-signed my first apartment lease, and taught me how to change a tire. He was the only person who ever really protected me. Jake died in a motorcycle accident 2 years ago. He was riding home from work on a Tuesday evening when someone ran a red light. The funeral was the last time I saw my family. My mom spent the entire service crying about how her life was ruined. My stepfather complained about the cost of the flowers. I left before the burial and haven't spoken to any of them since. Derek doesn't know about Jake. He doesn't know about my family situation. When he talks about introducing me to his parents, I change the subject. When he suggests we spend holidays together with our families, I make excuses. After 14 months, he's starting to notice. The second thing I'm hiding is about my past. In college, I was involved in a really unhealthy relationship with my professor. I was 19, he was 38. It lasted 2 years. I thought I was mature and special. Looking back, I realize how wrong the entire situation was. He was married with kids. I was young and desperate for attention from someone who seemed to care about me. The relationship ended badly. His wife found out and contacted the university. There was an investigation. He lost his job and his marriage. I had to finish my degree at a different school. The whole thing was a mess that followed me for years. Derek talks sometimes about past relationships and how he's never been involved with anyone who was already in a relationship. He says cheating is the one thing he could never forgive. He says people who get involved with married people have no morals. Every time he says things like this, I feel sick. The third thing is about money. Derek thinks I work as a freelance graphic designer. That's partially true. I do some design work, but most of my income comes from working at a strip club 3 nights a week. I started dancing right after college when I couldn't find steady work in my field. The money was good and I was able to pay off my student loans in 3 years instead of 10. I'm not ashamed of the work itself. The women I work with are smart and strong. But I know how Derek would react. He's made comments about strip clubs being degrading. He's mentioned that he could never date someone who worked in that industry. So I keep lying about my schedule and making up freelance clients who don't exist. These lies are eating me alive. Every time Derek says he loves me, I can't say it back. The words stick in my throat because I know he's saying he loves someone who doesn't really exist. He's saying he loves Maya, the freelance designer with the normal family and the clean past. He doesn't know about Maya, who dances for money and slept with her married professor and whose brother is buried in a cemetery she can't bear to visit. Derek has started asking questions. Last week he asked why I never post pictures of us together on social media. I told him I'm private about relationships, but the truth is that people from my work follow me and I don't want them to see him. 2 weeks ago he asked if he could come pick me up from work sometime. I said my clients prefer to meet at neutral locations. The lying has made me paranoid. I check my phone constantly to make sure I haven't left any evidence of my real life visible. I've started keeping 2 calendars, one for Derek and one for reality. I practice stories about fake clients while I'm driving to work. Last month, Derek mentioned that his friend's girlfriend had been acting secretive about her phone and her schedule. He said his friend was worried she was cheating. Then Derek looked at me and said he was glad we were honest with each other. I excused myself and threw up in the bathroom. The worst part is that Derek is a good person. He brings me soup when I'm sick. He remembers small things I mention in passing. He's already started talking about moving in together and maybe getting married someday. He deserves someone who can be honest with him. But I can't figure out how to tell him the truth now. It's been 14 months. How do I explain that I've been lying about my job, my family, and my past this entire time? How do I tell him that the person he fell in love with is a carefully constructed fiction? I've been thinking about just ending things. Maybe it would be easier for both of us if I just disappeared. I could tell him I'm not ready for a serious relationship and leave it at that. But the thought of losing him makes me feel sick. I love Derek. I love the way he makes coffee for both of us every morning. I love how he gets excited about stupid movies and tries to explain the plots to me in detail. I love that he leaves little notes in my lunch bag when he makes it for me. But I don't know if he could love the real me. Yesterday, Derek asked me point blank if there was something I needed to tell him. He said he felt like I was pulling away and he didn't understand why. I told him everything was fine, but he didn't look convinced. I'm running out of ways to deflect his questions. I'm running out of energy to keep track of all the lies. But I'm also terrified of what will happen if I tell him the truth. Has anyone else been in a situation like this? How do you tell someone you love that you've been lying to them about fundamental parts of your life? Is it possible to build something real on a foundation of lies, or am I just making everything worse by waiting? I don't know what to do anymore. Update 1: Things have gotten much worse since my last post. Derek's suspicions about me cheating have turned into full-blown accusations, and I'm starting to understand why. 3 weeks after I made my original post, Derek surprised me by showing up at my apartment on a Tuesday night. I had told him I was working late on a project for a client. In reality, I was at the club. I saw his car in the parking lot when I got home at 2 a.m. and panic took over completely. I sat in my car for 20 minutes trying to figure out what to tell him. Finally, I went upstairs and found him waiting in my living room. He had used the spare key I gave him months ago. He looked exhausted and angry. Derek asked me directly where I had been. I stuck to my story about the client meeting running late. He asked me which client. I gave him the name of a fake company I had made up months earlier. He nodded and didn't say anything else that night. I thought I had handled it well. I was wrong. The next morning, Derek told me he had done some research on the company I mentioned. He couldn't find any website, any social media presence, or any record of the business existing. He asked me to show him the contract I had signed with them. I told him I kept all my business documents at a separate office location. That was my second mistake. Derek works in business consulting. He knows how freelancers operate. He knows that most people keep their contracts and project files at home or in cloud storage. My explanation didn't make sense. Over the next few days, Derek started asking more specific questions about my work. He wanted to know about my client acquisition process, my rates, my project timelines. I had answers for some of these questions because I do occasionally take on small design projects. But when he asked to see my portfolio or wanted to know about my business insurance, I started stumbling. The situation got worse when Derek's sister Emma, 29F, came to visit. Emma works as a marketing director and was excited to meet another creative professional. She asked me about design software, industry trends, and my favorite projects. I managed to answer most of her questions, but I could tell she was picking up on inconsistencies in my responses. After Emma left, Derek was quiet for several days. Then he started doing things that made it clear he was checking up on me. He would call me at random times during the day to ask what I was working on. He started paying attention to my schedule in ways he never had before. He noticed that I was always busy on the same 3 nights each week. 2 weeks ago, Derek asked me to come to his company's holiday party. I said I couldn't because I had a client deadline. He asked me which client. I gave him another fake company name. He wrote it down on his phone. The next day, Derek told me he had called the number I had given him for my client. The number was disconnected. He had also searched for the company online and found nothing. He asked me to explain. I told him I must have given him the wrong number. I said the company was very small and didn't have much online presence. Derek listened to my explanation without saying anything. Then he asked me to call the client right then and there to confirm our meeting. I couldn't do it. I told him I didn't like being questioned about my work. I said I found his behavior controlling and invasive. Derek apologized and said he was just trying to understand my business better. But the damage was done. Derek had caught me in multiple lies about my work, and he was starting to put pieces together. The problem was that he was drawing the wrong conclusions. Last week, Derek confronted me about cheating. He said my secretive behavior, my inconsistent stories, and my unavailability on specific nights all pointed to an affair. He asked me to look him in the eye and tell him I wasn't seeing someone else. I looked him in the eye and told him I wasn't cheating. That part was true. But Derek didn't believe me anymore. Derek said he had been talking to his friends about our relationship. He said they all agreed that my behavior was suspicious. He mentioned that his friend Mike had gone through something similar with his ex-girlfriend, and all the signs were the same. I tried to explain that I wasn't cheating, but Derek said he needed space to think. He said he couldn't be in a relationship with someone he didn't trust. He asked me to give him a week to decide what he wanted to do. That week was the longest week of my life. I barely slept. I couldn't eat. I kept checking my phone to see if he had texted. I thought about telling him the truth, but I was terrified that the reality would be worse than what he was imagining. When Derek came back, he had made a decision. He said he wanted to make our relationship work, but he needed complete honesty from me. He said we needed to start over with full transparency. Derek asked me to show him my phone, my email, and my social media accounts. He wanted to meet my friends and my family. He wanted to see my workspace and meet my clients. He said these were the conditions for moving forward. I agreed to show him my phone and social media. There wasn't anything incriminating there because I'm careful about what I save and post. But I couldn't agree to the other requests. I made excuses about my family being out of town and my clients preferring privacy. Derek said my continued evasiveness proved that I was hiding something major. He said he was tired of feeling like he was dating a stranger. He asked me one more time to tell him the truth about whatever I was hiding. I almost told him everything in that moment. I almost explained about my family and my job and my past. But then I thought about how disappointed he would be. I thought about how different he would look at me. I thought about how this would be the end of everything good in my life. Instead, I told him I needed time to think. I said I couldn't handle the pressure of his constant questioning. I asked him to be patient with me. Derek said he had been patient for 14 months. He said he was done waiting for me to decide whether I wanted to be in a real relationship or keep playing games. He said he was going to stay with his friend Mike for a few days to clear his head. That was 5 days ago. Derek hasn't called or texted since then. His friend Mike posted pictures on social media of them at a bar with a group of people I don't recognize. In one of the pictures, Derek is talking to a woman I've never seen before. She's laughing at something he said. I know I should call him. I know I should finally tell him the truth. But I also know that the truth might destroy everything we have left. My coworker Jasmine told me yesterday that sometimes the fantasy of a person is better than the reality. She said maybe Derek and I just weren't meant to be together. But I can't accept that. I can't accept that I'm going to lose the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too scared to be honest. I don't know what to do. Derek thinks I'm cheating on him, but the truth is that I'm just a coward who was too afraid to let him see who I really am. Update 2: Derek found out about the strip club. But not in the way I expected. Last week, Derek's friend Mike had a bachelor party. They went to several bars and ended up at the club where I work. I wasn't scheduled to work that night, but I had picked up an extra shift because I needed the money. I was on stage when I saw Derek walk in with the group. I froze completely. The music was still playing, but I couldn't move. The other dancers had to help me off the stage. I ran to the dressing room and locked the door. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't get my phone out of my bag. I could hear the other women asking if I was okay, but I couldn't answer. Jasmine found me 20 minutes later sitting on the floor in my costume. She helped me get dressed and drove me home. She said Derek had asked the bouncer about me, but the bouncer wouldn't give him any information. I didn't sleep that night. I kept checking my phone, waiting for Derek to call or text. He didn't contact me until the next afternoon. When Derek finally called, his voice was different. He sounded tired and disappointed. He said he needed to see me right away. I told him to come over. Derek arrived an hour later. He looked like he hadn't slept either. He sat down on my couch and asked me how long I had been dancing. I told him 3 years. He asked me why I lied about my job. I didn't have a good answer. Derek said he had spent the morning thinking about all the lies I had told him. He said he finally understood why my work stories never made sense. He said he felt stupid for believing that I was cheating when the truth was that I just didn't trust him enough to be honest. I tried to explain that I was scared of his reaction. I told him about the comments he had made about strip clubs and the women who work in them. Derek said he remembered those conversations differently. He said he had been talking about specific situations, not making judgments about everyone in the industry. Derek asked me what else I had lied about. I told him about my family situation and about my brother Jake. I explained why I couldn't introduce him to my parents and why I got uncomfortable when he talked about family holidays. Derek listened without interrupting. When I finished talking, he was quiet for a long time. Then he asked me about my college relationship with my professor. I don't know how he knew about that, but he did. I told him the truth about that situation too. I explained how young I was and how wrong the whole thing had been. Derek asked me if I had learned anything from that experience. I told him I had learned not to trust people with my secrets. Derek said that was the problem. He said I had learned the wrong lesson. He said I had decided that keeping secrets was safer than being vulnerable, but secrets had almost destroyed our relationship. Derek told me he wasn't angry about the strip club. He said he was hurt that I had lied to him for so long. He said he was disappointed that I had assumed he would judge me without giving him a chance to understand. But Derek also said he understood why I had been scared. He said he had said things that made me think he would react badly. He said he wished I had trusted him enough to tell him the truth earlier. Derek asked me if there was anything else I was hiding. I told him no. That was the truth. I had told him everything. Derek said he needed time to process everything I had told him. He said he wasn't breaking up with me, but he needed space to figure out how to move forward. He said he would call me in a few days. 3 days later, Derek called and asked me to meet him for coffee. I was nervous about what he was going to say. I thought he might be ready to end things completely. Derek told me he had been thinking about our relationship and about trust. He said he realized that he had created an environment where I felt like I couldn't be honest with him. He said some of the responsibility for the lying was his. But Derek also said he couldn't continue the relationship unless things changed completely. He said he needed to know that I would be honest with him going forward, even about difficult things. He said he needed to feel like he was dating a real person, not a character I had created. Derek asked me to quit the strip club. He said he wasn't comfortable with me working there while we were trying to rebuild our relationship. He said he would help me financially if I needed time to find other work. I told Derek I would think about it. The truth is that I make more money dancing than I could make doing freelance design work. I have bills to pay and student loans to finish paying off. I can't afford to quit without having another source of income lined up. Derek said he understood my financial concerns, but he said he couldn't get past the idea of other men seeing me that way. He said it would always be an issue for him. We left the coffee shop without making any decisions. Derek said he would give me time to figure out what I wanted to do. He said he would wait for me to make a choice. That was 2 weeks ago. Derek and I have been texting occasionally, but we haven't seen each other. I haven't quit my job. I haven't figured out how to make the same amount of money doing something else. Yesterday, Derek texted me that he had started seeing a therapist to work through his feelings about our relationship. He said he thought I should consider therapy too. He said we both needed to work on communication and trust. I don't know if I want to go to therapy. I don't know if I want to quit my job. I don't know if Derek and I can fix what's broken between us. What I do know is that the truth didn't set me free the way people said it would. The truth just created new problems. Update 3: Derek and I broke up 3 weeks ago. The relationship couldn't survive the damage from all the lies and the fundamental differences in what we wanted. After my last update, I tried to make things work. I started looking for other sources of income so I could quit dancing. I applied for several full-time design positions and picked up extra freelance projects. I even went to 2 therapy sessions to show Derek that I was serious about working on our issues. But it wasn't enough. Derek and I had several more conversations about our relationship, and it became clear that we wanted different things. Derek said he needed to be with someone who was completely open with him from the beginning. He said he couldn't get past the feeling that I had manipulated him by lying about major parts of my life. He said he would always wonder what else I might be hiding. I understood his position, but I also realized that I wasn't ready to be the completely transparent person he needed. I wasn't ready to introduce him to my family situation. I wasn't ready to change my entire life to fit his expectations. The final conversation happened 3 weeks ago. Derek came over to my apartment and we talked for hours. He said he loved me, but he couldn't trust me anymore. He said he needed to be with someone who didn't make him question everything they told him. I told Derek that I loved him too, but I couldn't become a different person just to make him comfortable. I said I needed to be with someone who could accept my past and my choices, even if they weren't what he would have chosen. Derek said he respected my decision, but he couldn't pretend that our differences weren't important. He said he hoped I would find someone who was better suited for me. We hugged goodbye, and Derek left. I haven't heard from him since then. The weeks after the breakup were difficult. I kept my job at the club because I needed the money and because I realized that I wasn't ashamed of the work. I finished paying off my student loans last week, which was one of my main financial goals. I also started therapy on my own. Not because Derek suggested it, but because I realized I needed to work through my issues with trust and communication. My therapist is helping me understand why I kept so many secrets and how to be more honest in future relationships. Last week, I ran into Derek at a grocery store. He was with a woman I didn't recognize. She looked like the type of person who comes from a stable family and has never had to make difficult choices about money. They looked happy together. Derek saw me and nodded politely. We didn't talk. I finished my shopping and left. I'm not angry about how things ended. Derek deserves someone who could be completely honest with him from the start. I deserve someone who could accept my past without trying to change my present. The relationship taught me that love isn't enough if 2 people have fundamentally different values and expectations. It also taught me that keeping secrets to protect someone's feelings usually ends up hurting them more than the truth would have. I'm not dating anyone right now. I'm focusing on my work and my therapy. I'm learning how to be honest about who I am and what I want. Maybe someday I'll meet someone who can accept all of those things. But for now, I'm okay being alone. I'm okay being the person I actually am instead of the person I thought Derek wanted me to be. That's where things stand today. Thank you to everyone who commented on my posts and gave me advice. Even though the relationship didn't work out, I learned a lot about myself and about what I need in a partner. I'm closing this account now and moving on with my life.